When would you like to get married?
Never.
Never? Why not?
Because I don't feel like it.
You boys have cooties?
Yeah.
In 30 years.
Wow.
Maybe 20 years.
Maybe 20
Yeah.
years. 30 years is a long time?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the nicest thing your daddy does for your mommy?
He gave her flowers.
He gave her flowers. What kind of flowers?
Roses.
What color were they?
Red.
Did they smell pretty?
I have no idea.
You don't know. What's the nicest thing your mommy does for your daddy?
Let me think about that.
What's the funniest thing your mom does?
Everything.
Everything your mommy does is funny?
When my mom comes home really sweaty and drenched from a run, it's like there's a whole inch of sweat.
Your mom sweats a lot.
Yeah. I'm glad my mom didn't hear that.
You probably should be.
All right, good morning. My name is Grant, if we haven't met yet, and we are talking about dreaming big, and just like you were when you were a kid, we want to encourage you that God wants you to dream big, to be passionate about something, to do something and drive after something and be productive in your life, and that's His desire for you. And what we've been talking about up until this point has been just kind of those obstacles, and today we want to talk about one more obstacle that kind of keeps us from achieving those dreams. And what I want you to do is, Bill mentioned before, if you have the Bible app or you downloaded that, go over to the left and look for a live event. I've got a lot of content in here, so I want you to be able to take that with you on the go. Also, I will mention, if you're new to Bible reading or you need to get back in it or something like that, if you want to start in a place, get this Bible app. It's free. It's got every translation imaginable. You can read it in Russian if you want to. You go and you get this, and you can set up a reading plan. And what I'm going to recommend this week is that you get a reading plan for the book of Proverbs. Okay, we're going to talk about Proverbs, and I love Proverbs. The beauty about that app is you can set it up, and you can have it send you a message or an email or a text message just saying to remind you of to stay on that reading program. But the thing I love about the book of Proverbs is that it is for people who like just good, practical stuff. People that like to just do. I myself am just kind of a doer. I'm not so much of a thinker, okay? So just as an example, yesterday, I'm redoing this slab of concrete in our patio area back outside. And we've got about a 2-foot by 4-foot section of concrete. This thing's heavy. It took my wife and my son and I, everything we had to lift it up on our patio, lift it up on our porch. So we got this thing flipped, but I wanted to move it in just a little bit. So I grab this thing, and it's heavy, it's everything I can do to lift it. And I push it in, and when I work, I'm just sort of a big angry bear, okay? So I'm not really thinking, I'm just doing. I lift things up, I put them down, okay? That's my MO. And my family doesn't like to work with me. Anyway, so I've got this thing, and I move it in, and I think to myself, I'm probably pretty close to the edge of the porch, right? Because if I'm too close, I know when I set it down, my fingers are going to be underneath it. But I don't have time to think about that kind of stuff, right? Because we got to get stuff done, right? So I just move it in, and I'm it's probably close enough, and I set it. I dropped the thing down, and I was half right. With this hand, I was right. With this hand, I wasn't right, okay? And I smashed all 3 of these fingers, just heavy concrete, like that, screamed an expletive. I think our neighbors could probably hear it. And ran around, and it hurt like crazy, right? And I know my wife's always try giving birth to a child kind of thing. So I know I can never bring that up, okay? So anyway, I'm just kind of a doer. I like to get things done. So if you're kind of like that, you don't have time to think, which I know is not a good compliment to myself. If you don't have time to think, and you're just kind of a doer, and you want some practical wisdom, you want some guidance for life, you want to plug it in, and you want to do, the book of Proverbs is so practical and so perfect. So get that Bible app, set up a reading plan, read Proverbs. Today, why Proverbs is such a big deal is because this is what it does. This is the whole book in a nutshell. In the book of Proverbs, they go through and they divide people into 2 groups. The 2 groups, it just looks at each kind of individual person and says, this kind of person, they're like this. And this kind of person, well, they're in this group. And this kind of person, they're in this group. Now, before I kind of talk about what that is, I just want us to recognize that we do that too. We evaluate people. We divide people into two different groups. And for many of us, it looks something kind of like this. We divide people into intelligent and not intelligent, right? People that, like, Steve Jobs. He's like the perfect picture of this. Steve Jobs, we think of him, we're like, wow, he's brilliant, he's intelligent, high IQ, and we go, wow, that guy's intelligent. And then over here, you've got guys that drop concrete on their fingers, right? Okay, they're people like me-ish, or maybe not intelligent or not as high IQ people, and we divide people into these two different groups. And we put a value on people who are intelligent, and we kind of devalue people that aren't intelligent without as high IQ. Or maybe for some of you, it looks like this. Maybe you value people that are gifted. Right? We have a show called American Idol, where we idolize these people that, man, they're gifted and talented. They're as deep as a thumbtack. But man, they're gifted and they're talented, right? And we aspire to that. I can guarantee you there's almost every teenager in the world, man, that's what they would do. They would do anything to be in that rock band, to be in that setting and be that idol, because we value so much people that are gifted and talented. And not that they're bad people, but people that aren't, we just kind of put them over in this category. And we evaluate people just like the book of Proverbs does. But what I want to show you is the book of Proverbs, it does it so much better. It's not about, it's not about intellect. It's not about high IQ versus no IQ. It's this. This is what it does. It divides people into these two groups. The wise and the foolish. The wise and the foolish. And all the way throughout the book, it just goes, okay, here's a wise person, here's a foolish person. A wise person does this kind of thing, and a foolish person does that kind of thing. Wise, foolish, wise, foolish, wise, foolish. And it divides people into those two different groups, which is beautiful. Because I've known a lot of very, intellectual people that are fools. Right? I've known a lot of people that are really high IQs, very gifted, very talented, that I would say are fools. And I've also known some people that don't have the biggest intellect, education, background, vocabulary, who I would put in the very, very wise category. And so the book of Proverbs divides up what really matters: wise, foolish, wise, foolish, wise, foolish. And today what we want to focus on is this. If you want to have or achieve any kind of dream, if you want the work of your hands to be successful, you need to be wise, right? And here's how you get wisdom. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20 starts like this. Walk with the wise and become wise. If you want the things that you do to be done with wisdom and to have success to the things that come to your hands, walk with the wise and you will become wise. Opposite of that is true. For a companion of fools suffers harm. So we want to make this point. Sometimes our dreams didn't work out, not because we weren't smart enough, not because we didn't work hard enough, but the biggest obstacle between us and what we really want to do is the people that we hang around. So we want to make this one statement today. The people you hang around determine the person you become. That's just true. That's just real. And you might be sitting out there going, not me, I'm an island, I'm a rock, I'm my own man, right? No. You are highly, highly influenced, no matter who you are, by the people who are around you. The people you hang around determine the person you become. And that's just a matter of fact, and you can't stop it. If you hang around people, they will guide you into the person you're going to become. So here's what I want to do today. I want to just divide people, just like the book of Proverbs does. I want to divide them into two different groups. And I want you to do this. I want you to evaluate the people that you know. Not just your friends, but your family, right? There's some people that you're just stuck with, like your family. There's some people that you're just around in your life, and these are the people that influence you. I want you to think about specifically who those people are and look at how much influence they have in your life and analyze, is this a wise person or is this a foolish person? You like being around them, and maybe they're perfectly likable people, but the question is, are they wise people or are they foolish people? So here's what we're going to do. Number one, we want to avoid the foolish, because the book of Proverbs tells us this, real simple. Stay away from a fool, for you will not find knowledge on their lips. They're not going to give you good advice. They're not going to give you good counsel. And the most crucial point in your life, if you're around a fool too much, they're going to guide you in the wrong direction. So the book of Proverbs says, love them, care for them, be there for them. But at the same time, stay away from them. Don't allow these people to have influence in your life. So here's what we need help with, though. We need to figure out who's a fool. Because for the most part, if we knew that the people we were hanging around with, the people who are influencing our life, if we knew they were fools, we probably wouldn't hang around with them. But we sometimes don't know who a fool is. So we're just going to kind of go through Proverbs and we're going to take a look. Here's some common things that the book of Proverbs says. First of all, there is the repeat offenders. Okay? You know, it's not bad to make a mistake or do something wrong. Every single one of us, we make mistakes, we do things wrong. But then you've got those people in your life who just over and over and over again keep making the same mistake. Here's what the book of Proverbs warns. As a dog returns to its vomit. I love the Bible, it's so graphic. So fools repeat their folly. Okay? We had this dog growing up on a farm. He was a black lab, and he was a farm dog. Okay? And he would go out to the dead hole. Now, the dead hole is where we throw all the dead animals, okay? I'm a little nervous about telling this to a bunch of city folk. The first service didn't really like it. But anyway, you just have to plug your ears if you're... We almost had a pregnant lady throw up in the first service. So anyway, you just plug your ears if you're a little sensitive. So anyway, this dog goes out to the dead hole, and he would grab like a dead pig, like a baby pig that had died and been thrown in the dead hole. He would drag that up onto the front lawn, and he would eat it. And this, I didn't even know it was strange behavior until I moved into the city, right? So anyway, you would just walk out there and he'd be snacking on this pig, and that was like his snack, right? And then we would let him in the house. And so the dog would come in, and this was one night, he just crawled up on my lap, this big stinky dog, and he was playing around, and then he threw up right there in my lap. Dead pig, right? See the ears and stuff. Anyway, yeah, it was pretty gross. But I was okay with it because I knew what was going to happen. What? He was going to clean it up for me. So he just cleaned up all of that and took care of everything he did. And some of you have friends like that. Just spitting up dead pig and eating it. Anyway, they just return to that comment over and over again. They repeat the same dumb, stupid mistake, and they just go back and they do it again and again and again. And here's the thing, if you have people like that in your life, love them, care for them, be there for them. Do not allow them to influence your life. Next one looks like this. The people who like to hear themselves talk. Okay, now I live with 5 other people in my house, most of them are little. But I have 3, females in my house, and they have a tendency to talk. They use way more words than the guys in the house to communicate very simple thoughts. Now, that's not who I'm picking on, okay? That's not what I'm saying. People that use a lot of words to communicate very simple things, that's not what I mean by this. What I mean is people who like to give advice or like to counsel or like to talk too much about things that they obviously don't have figured out. You know somebody like this? The book of Proverbs says this. Fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions. They don't understand, they don't even like the idea of sitting around and hearing and understanding things, but they love to tell you what's on their mind. And let me be really specific about this. What I'm talking about, and just evaluate the people in your life. Do you know somebody, or does somebody influence you, who gives you advice or gives other people advice about things that they obviously don't have figured out? Just as an example. If you were to come up to me after the service and I were to give you advice on how to have good abs, right? That would just not be, because I obviously don't have that figured out. That's just, if I were to give you advice about that, you would be like, what? What is this person doing? And yet you maybe have friends like that who are giving relationship advice. right? I love this guy, I care for this guy so much, but one day I had a guy, give me relationship advice, and he'd been married 5 times, and he was currently going through a divorce. I'm like, why are you giving me relationship advice, right? That is the definition of a fool. Next one. The deceptive. Okay, now this should be a no-brainer, but every once in a while we need like a real good reminder. When people are deceptive, that should be a huge flag, because people like to cut corners. They like to cheat. They like to take the easy way. Instead of just digging down deep and finding a lot of character, they always try to mask a mistake that they've made. They like to try to present themselves. So basically they're just those kind of individuals that it just seems like they put on their personality in the morning. It's like, hey, this is me. You won't ever know the real me, but this is me, because it's just weaved in a bunch of things, and you just go, is that true? I don't really know. Here's what the book of Proverbs says. The wisdom of the prudent is to give thought to their ways, right? To think about what they've done, the mistakes they've made, to think about it. But the folly of a fool is deception, right? Because a fool figures out early on in life, it is way easier to just be perceived as somebody else, to kind of cut through that loop and cheat by just being a little bit deceptive. So if you work with somebody and they're constantly cutting corners, unethical corners, if they're constantly presenting their somebody, if they tell a story and you're kind of like, I don't know if that was true. Or somebody comes up to you and says, hey, is something they said true? And I'm like, well, that would be true if A, B, and C were true. Well, are A, B, and C true? I don't know. Right? That's how we really kind of have a hard time figuring out whether these people are for real. And the Bible just warns, hey, these people are fools. Love them. Care for them. Do not let them influence your life. Next one. The drama queen. Okay, so here's the thing. A lot of you wives, and this is going to be very stereotypical, and maybe sometimes it works the other way, but 80% of the time this is how it works. You wives think your husband is an idiot because you come up to him and like, did you hear what the football coach said to our son? Did you see the fact that he didn't have him playing on the field? Do you think that we ought to talk to him about that? Why don't we go talk to him about that? And your husband says, no, I don't think we should. I think we should just shut up and not do anything, right? And he is filled with wisdom. Let me prove it to you. It is to one's honor to avoid strife, right? Why would you go talk to the football coach? Unless he punched your son in the face, and he probably had it coming. Avoid strife, okay? It is to one's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel. I can't believe they said that. Well, I'm going to make sure that they know. I'm going to make sure that they know that that wasn't right. I'm going to just have one last phone call. And I'm always. How many husbands are like this? You're just going, no, let's not. Why don't you not? Don't say anything. And you didn't know it, but your husband's actually quite wise. Because it's an honor to avoid strife. If you know somebody in your life, it's a drama queen or king, right? I don't want to be stereotypical. Men do this like crazy. Love them. Care for them. But don't allow somebody that's quick to get in a fight to influence your life. One more. Living for the weekend. Right? You know people like this. And there's a difference between, hey, what are we going to go do this weekend? And, hey, girl, let's go get our drink on. Or something like that. Let me give you a verse here. Very practical advice. Wine produces mockers. Okay, now let me just clear. Just a few weeks ago, we talked about how Jesus drank wine. So what many churches and pastors do is they just say, no more drinking for anyone. I'm like, well, Jesus drank wine. The idea is drinking wine, drinking beer, that's not a bad thing. But here's what it says. Wine produces mockers. Alcohol leads to brawls. Those led astray by, right? Those who make it the focus of their life. Those who think that they can't enjoy life without being a little bit buzzed, right? Those led astray by drink cannot be wise. They cannot be wise. Now, you might be sitting out there going, well, I hang out with people, and don't get me wrong, I understand why. There's nothing I enjoy more than being sober and watching drunk people. I mean, it's a good time. But anyway, that's what we're going to do for our elders retreat. Fight for the Kool-Aid, have a good time. Anyway, you might be in that boat where you're like, well, I don't get smashed, I don't get drunk, I just kind of, I hang out with those people, but I don't get drunk. But let me ask the question, who are you allowing to influence you? Who are the people in your life that are giving you influence? Is it these people? He's saying people that are led astray by wine, they're fools. Don't, love them, care for them, but don't let these people influence the decisions that you make. Now here's the thing, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the beginning of the book of Proverbs. Every verse in there has something to do with it to let you know who a fool is and who a wise person is. We need to be looking at, do we have fools in our life? And then the next question we need to be asking is, who in our life is wise? We need to identify the wise. And just like we have a hard time sometimes seeing who fools are, we need to look at our life and go, who are the wise people? So here's just a few things on how to identify wise people. Wise people are teachable because that's how they got wise, right? That they wouldn't be wise if they weren't teachable, because the only way to grow in wisdom is to be taught or to learn from somebody. So wise people are teachable. Book of Proverbs. Do not rebuke mockers, or they will hate you. Right? A fool, if you rebuke them, they're going to be like, how dare you? I can't stand it. But you do one of these things, how dare you say things to me? But a wise person, rebuke the wise, not even like a nice correction, but like a staunch rebuke. The wise, they will love you, because that's the only way you get better. That's the only way you grow in wisdom. Wise, no. So, just think about the people in your life, and if you're trying to find out wise people, you just need to go after them. Rebuke them. Like, find something, it doesn't matter, rebuke them and see how they handle it, see how they deal with it. Make it real, right? But just go up to them and be like, hey, I don't know if you should drink a fifth of whiskey before noon, and see what they do. If they go, yeah, that's probably a good idea, then they're probably somebody who's wise. Second thing, the wise consider God. Now, let me be real clear what I'm talking about. There can be wisdom in people that don't even know who Jesus is or don't even go to church. Wisdom can happen in those circumstances for sure. So I'm just talking about across the board. When you're trying to think about somebody that's wise considers the fact that we all came from somewhere. Somebody that's wise, who's discerning, who really understands, know that something keeps the universe spinning. They know that there's a God if they're wise. And they, before they do things, before they take action, they consider what God might think. The book of Proverbs says this: the wise fear the Lord and shun evil. But a fool is hot-headed, yet feels secure. They just rush in and get it done. Right? The wise fear the Lord. Think about those people in your life. If there doesn't seem to be a healthy fear, maybe they don't understand everything about like who Jesus is or anything like that, but they have a healthy fear of who God is. That is the beginning of wisdom. One more. Emotionally stable. These are hard to find. Okay? Emotionally stable people are kind of hard to find. And don't get me wrong, if you're sitting out there going, well, I'm a Baptist case, right? It's okay. God loves you and He cares for you. It's not like you're a bad person. But as we go through life, one of the major things, because it's so incredibly hard, is as we go through life, we learn to control emotions, because these emotions drive us and they make us angry and they make us passionate and they're very good. But we learn when the right time to be emotionally in control is, and that's all the time. And we learn it through a process, and only the very wise have learned how very, very important that is. The book of Proverbs says, fools vent their anger, but the wise quietly hold it back. The wise quietly hold it back instead of like flipping their lid. And you may be one of these people, okay? I have noticed that people almost hold it as a value. Like, I went to the store and they gave me the wrong change. And I went back and I just let them know, you don't do that to me, right? It's almost like a value. I went back there and I stuck it to the man, right? That's kind of almost value. Like, we appreciate that. Wow, you didn't like lay down and you like, but it isn't wisdom. It sounds good, but we hold it as a value. Like, I don't let nobody walk on me. And he's saying, no, only a fool gives full vent to his anger. A wise person knows they always keep their emotions in check. So that's just a little sample of the people in your life that might be wise. Now, as I talk through this, a couple of things might be popping in your head. The first thing that might be popping in your head is, everybody I know is a fool. Right? Very, very likely. Okay? And a lot of these people you're like stuck with. Like you're married to them, or they're in your family, or they're your kids, they're your dad. I mean, you're stuck with them. And sometimes the right thing to do is just to cut ties in these relationships and say, hey, I'll just see you never, right? Okay? Sometimes that's the right case, but most of the time we can't do that, right? So I'm not encouraging you to do that, but what we do have is we have this. With every person, just imagine that everybody has a dial on their forehead, okay? We have the ability to dial in or dial out the amount of influence that people have in their life. Now, don't physically do this, but if somebody walks up to you and you're like, I need you to not have any influence in my life, just imagine yourself reaching out and shutting that dial off, right? Okay? Don't cut the relationship off, but dial down the influence. Now, here's how we do that. Or if it's somebody that's wise, you dial up the influence with every person in your life. Here's how you do that. Number one, it comes down to time. You spend less time with fools and more time with the wise. So if you work with somebody, you have a relationship with somebody, and they are a fool, and they say, hey, what do you want to do this weekend? The answer is, nothing, I'm busy, right? I've got too much going on right now. I love you, I care for you, I'm not going to spend as much time with you. Because the more you're around somebody, it doesn't even matter if you know that they're an idiot, okay? It doesn't even matter if you know that. They will begin to influence who you are as a person. So spend less time with fools and spend more time with the wise. And if you're sitting out there going, well, I don't know any wise people, here's what we do. This is like a big ministry of life groups. We have things called life groups. And this is what we do. We find people that we consider to be wise. And we say, hey, we want you to put a group together of other wise people, and we just want you to get together, and we want wise people to hang out with wise people, and we want you to encourage and bring out people maybe like you that don't have any good friends or relationships, and we want to put you in that group. We want to put people in the same group that are going the same place that you want to go. Those are called life groups, and if you're interested in them, we're going to be having first step tomorrow. We'll get you plugged into a life group, so come to that tomorrow night at 7. Small plug. Anyway, less time with fools, more time with the wise. The second thing is, and this is a big one, when you're managing, you're adjusting that dial on people's foreheads, only share dilemma with the wise. Okay? Only share dilemma. Like, when you come to a major crisis in your life and you're trying to figure out what you're doing with money or what you're doing with a relationship or what job to take or what not job to take or something that somebody said or what the football coach said, you know, when you're trying to figure out those dilemmas, never share that information with a fool. I made a mistake several years ago. Again, I told you about the guy who's been married 5 times giving me relationship advice. This is when that happened. Okay? He said, hey, how you doing? I was like, great. He said, hey, how's your relationship with your wife? And it just so happened that we didn't get off to a great start that morning. Okay? Had a little bit of a squabble. And so he said, how's it going? And I told him about it. I don't know why. It was just coming out of my mouth. And he gave me some of the worst advice I have ever heard in my life. It was terrible, but honestly, during the conversation, I was thinking, that didn't sound too bad. Maybe I should kick her out of the house, you know? It's amazing how easily susceptible we are to what a fool has to say, right? And that's how we go. So never share a crisis in your life with a fool. Only find people who are wise to share that stuff with. Because this gets really deep, okay? This gets deep into who you are as a person. The truth is, many times, you're looking for a person who will tell you what you want to hear. And only a fool will tell you what you want to hear. The wise will tell you what you need to hear. Third one. This is for those of you who are sitting out there going, I think I'm a fool. Right? If you go through all those proverbs, wait a minute, I'm a fool. Okay, this is for you. And it's okay. It's a realization that we all get to at some point, okay? If you're sitting out there going, a fool, I want to be wiser, I want to be around wise people. If you find a wise person to be around, shut up. Okay? Because this is a big deal. Because a wise person, right, if they identify you as a fool, they're not going to want to be around you if you talk. Because they will identify you as a fool, right? So shut up and just listen. Okay? Sound good? All right, so as we do that, you don't want to scare off the wise people. As you do this, here's what I want you to do. I want you to, this week, put pen to paper. Take out a pen with a piece of paper, take out your notes or whatever, and write down people in your life, just for you personally, that are the key influences in your life. Who are the people, when you have a crisis, this is the person you run to? Who is it that you spend the majority of your time around? Talk about the key influences of your life, write these people down, and then ask yourself a question, evaluate. Are these people wise, or are they fools? Is every minute that I spend intentionally with them shooting myself in the foot, or am I growing wiser by being around these people? Evaluate and ask the question. And at the same time, write down the wisest people you know. Write down the wisest people you know that are close to you that you could spend time with, and spend time with them. Because remember, the wise spend time with the wise. Let me pray. Father, I pray that as we think about the relationships, the friends, the individuals in our life, I pray that you help us to analyze that. God, I pray for a discernment that comes from you. I pray that you'd show us who the people are we're hanging around with. God, what relationships we need to minimize, what relationships we need to end. God, reveal to us and show us what those relationships are that we need to start. I pray that you would just speak that to us. And I pray that